This video is going to talk about estimating. Quick disclaimer, most times, especially in the lower grades of math, there's one right answer to a question. Because we're going to be estimating and because we're going to get close enough to the answer, you may come up with an answer that I didn't come up with that still may end up being a correct answer or a close enough answer. So what you might notice, I'm dropping the marker already, what you might notice is that if I'm coming around to check answers, I might say, that's not what I got, but that's close enough, and I can see how you got there. And that's part of estimating. So just kind of know that going in. All right, if we want to find 40% of 302, I want to estimate that so I can see what the answer should be without sitting here and doing all the math work all at once. Maybe I'm at the store and I need to do a quick calculation in my head, or maybe I need to double check my answer and I'm not quite sure it's right, so I want to do an estimate and see if I got close enough. So here's how we do it. 49% is super close to 50%, and I know what 50% means. 50% means 1/2. So I'm going to take 49% and replace it with 50%. 302, super close to 300, and that's a lot easier to manipulate 300 than it is 302. So I'm going to replace 302 with 300. I'm trying to find 50% of 300 now, and that looks a lot less complex. And I know that 50% means 1/2. So if I'm trying to find half of 300, I know that half of 300 is going to be 150. So my answer is going to be 150, except it's not, because we're estimating. So my answer isn't going to be just 150. My answer is going to be about 150. Because 49% of 302, not 150. But it's about 150. It will be around 150, but it won't be exactly that. So I have to make sure I label my answer with about. Let's take a look at a CD, and that totally looks like a CD. Let's take a look at a CD that's being sold for $11.90. I think that might be a little bit too small. $11.90. But there's a sale going on right now that says it's 25% off. What I want to know is how much am I going to save by buying the CD while it's 25% off? Well, in order to do this, I want to take $11.90 and make it into a more manageable dollar amount without having to worry about all the cents, because that'll make more sense. So $11.90 is super close to $12. So I'm going to turn $11.90 into $12. 25% off, 25% is 1/4, and I know this. We'd work with money. We've been working with this for a while. So I need to know what is 1/4 of $12. So what is 12 divided up into 4 different parts? I know that 12 divided up into 4 different parts is going to be 3, which means I will save about $3. And I've just estimated. Do I know exactly how much money I'm going to save? No, but I do know it's going to be really close to that. Let's go over here to the glare that's everywhere. Okay, let's try to find 17% of 198. Except that's another kind of set of awkward numbers, so we're going to try to make some adjustments. But this time, because 198, just kidding, because 198 is super close to 200, I'm just going to round this up to 200. Now I'm trying to find 17% of 200. Here's where things get really cool, because I'm working with multiples of 100. And I know that percent means out of 100. So 17% means for every 100, we're going to take 17 out of it. So because there are 2 hundreds here, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 17s. We're going to take 2 17s. So 17 plus 17 is going to be 34. So 17% out of 198 is going to be about 34. Let's take a look at another example where we are working with multiples of 100. 64% of students have pets at a certain school. And at this certain school, there are 279 students. We want to know about how many students have pets. So let's figure that out. 279, we can round that up to 300. So instead of thinking about 279 students, I'm going to think of 300 students. So that's 100, am I going to run out? 100, 100. That means 64% out of 100. So 64 out of this 100, 64 out of this 100, and 64 out of this 100. 100 plus 100 plus 100 is going to be 300, which means all we have to do is add up these three 64s. Now I could add up 64 plus 64 plus 64, or I could say there are 3 hundreds here, so I'm going to take 64 times 3. 3 times 4 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. So there are about 192 students with pets. All right, it's time for you to answer your question. And your question is going to be to find 52% of 189.